Welcome to the Deconstructionist Podcast. I'm your host, John Williamson.
And this is Adam Narlock.
And we have a special guest on today. For those of you who have been following us since the beginning, this will be kind of funny maybe for some of you, since we kind of, I would say lightly, mildly teased a little.
Oh my gosh.
At the very beginning, in regards to our youthful upbringing.
Yes.
So we have a very special guest that we were, our youth-like excitement, to say the least, came to the surface when we got the one and only Kevin Max.
Unbelievable.
From possibly the largest, most popular Christian band of all time, DC Talk.
Yes. I mean, when you think of Christianity in the 90s, if you don't think DC Talk, you weren't raised in Christianity in the 90s. And
right.
The thing I love about having this guy on, and really the reason that I wanted to get him, is A, he's very intelligent, he's very well spoken, and he is not one of those guys that has not been through some deconstruction. He has challenged the system that he came out of. I mean, you'll hear some of this in the interview, coming out of Liberty University, just getting thrown into this Christian celebrity culture, but then also having that sort of, not really abruptly, but it ended, and then what? And there's
right.
a lot of just deconstruction that comes from that. So he does a great job of throwing a critical eye on some of the weirdness of Christian culture and just the celebrity weirdness and living and being a part of that, but also being just a living, breathing human being with issues and complications and doubts and struggles. And this is just a really refreshing, raw, inside look at the whole scene.
Yeah, and it's super interesting, I think, to me, like when we were talking to him, just to hear somebody who, I mean, if you thought your own personal journey or deconstruction was unique, I mean, think of it from this guy's perspective, where he is in one of the biggest bands at the time. I mean, they were crossed over to the mainstream. Massive. On MTV, selling out arenas, and this guy's got to go through his own journey of questioning and doubts and struggles, like Adam said, while on this tour bus, and making, I'm sure, tons of money and selling millions of albums. And I mean, just how bizarre.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like the whole thing. Everybody knows what happens in Hollywood, the child star.
Right.
We even talk about child star syndrome. There you go. It's like too much, too fast, too soon. And here you've got a guy that I think you're going to be shocked at how grounded, how wise, how just insightful he is, and just how freaking human. Just a human, just a guy, just a good dude. And man, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm excited for everybody to hear this. This is cool. If you were raised in or around Christianity in the 1990s, you are really going to enjoy this. This is the only, by the way, John, this is the only guest that when I told my sister that we were interviewing a member of DC Talk, specifically Kevin Max, because that was her favorite. I think that was almost everybody's favorite.
He was my favorite too.
Yeah, because he's incredible. I mean, his voice is insane. And we're going to play some of his music on this episode because he's got a new album out, and it's very progressive. It's very artistic.
Yeah.
And he's just got a big rock voice that just shines on this record. So that's all I got, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, those of you that remember DC Talk, I mean, these guys sold millions of albums. They won 4 Grammy Awards, countless Dove Awards. And then, of course, Kevin's continued to do albums through a solo career. And his newest album that just came out is called Playing Games with the Shadow. And really just cool album. And it's getting a lot of critical love online. So check that out.
Yeah.
Like Adam said, if you like any of those songs, check the show notes and go there and help support Kevin. And as you'll hear him say in the interview, Kevin's got a ton of live shows, it sounds like, coming up.
Yeah.
So you can definitely check him out and see any of his live shows.
And this is a slightly edited episode.
Why is that, Adam?
Well, I mean, normally we don't edit episodes. They're just, raw, and what you see is what you get. But there was some news that hit last week where DC Talk blocked us. We got DC Talk blocked.
We sure did.
And we had to revisit some issues. And just so you guys know, hang in there, because we do kind of splice that in to the conversation, and Kevin gets very raw and very real, and John handles that part of the interview. So definitely some news coming at you. I think that's what everybody wants, right?
Yeah, you guys want to know the inside scoop?
You want to know the inside scoop.
Yep.
So without further ado,
Kevin Max.
Here we go.
steps out of the night, lit by neon billboards high, with laborious lips the siren cries.
So I think with all of our guests, the best place to start is really start from the beginning. And so maybe you could walk us through a little bit about your upbringing, kind of where you're from originally. I know you're a Michigan man, just like I am. And talk a little bit about maybe the way you were raised religiously or not religiously, and kind of the roots of Kevin Max.
Got it. You kind of have to go back to Grand Rapids, Michigan for the beginning of that. I mean, I was adopted when I was a baby, adopted into a great family. And my parents were very wonderful, salt of the earth people, very church oriented. My dad was a businessman. He worked for Deloitte Touche accounting firm. And he would work downtown Grand Rapids during the day, put on his 3-piece suit, and go down to Deloitte Touche. And then in the evenings come back and put on his cowboy hat and jean jacket and go out to the barn and feed horses and cows. And so I grew up in a rural area outside of Grand Rapids in a place called Cascade. And so I kind of had the best of both worlds. I had, we'd go down to the city to do stuff, and we'd go to Detroit to watch Detroit Tiger baseball games. And,
nice.
I'd see concerts and stuff. But then I would, I had the wonderful opportunity of growing up on a farm, where I would ride dirt bikes and horses, and my brother and I would, it really was just my family and another family on a dirt road, about, 30 minutes outside of town. So,
wow.
I had a lot of time to kind of read and listen to music and get into my own thoughts. And it's basically out of that, a little bit of isolation, that I started to really become interested in music and in literature and the arts. And I'd say it's also around the same time, because we were brought up going to church, that I started, really questioning what that was. And I had a lot of questions. I've always had a lot of questions. I have lots of questions.
Good. That's very apropos.
Yeah. Still, I have more now than I ever have.
Yeah.
So
Good.
It's kind of like, I was brought up in a Christian home. It's kind of a cliche scenario in some ways.
Sure.
Came to know the truth about Christ when I was young. Totally believed it. Became a Christian. But I was kind of, again, I read the scripture because I grew up reading the scripture, around church and family and everything else.
Yeah.
Youth group. But I was always interested in kind of the mystery and the dark stuff too. And I would read a lot of Frank Herbert and Stephen King and Anne Rice.
Yes.
I love that stuff.
And, actually it was Frank Herbert and Tolkien and probably William Blake and all those kind of authors that kind of, in a way, shaped my imagination. And I was writing songs, way before college, before I started my first band, and then eventually met Michael and Toby. So it's kind of like I was definitely interested in, kind of the more mysterious works of literature and poetry, and then also that kind of carried over into music too. I had a taste for, I was born in 1967. I graduated in 1985. And so I listened, I said this in an interview a little while ago that if it hadn't been for one of my neighbors close by introducing me to the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and David Bowie, I would have been in trouble, because, my parents listened to, I can't even tell you, I don't even know some of the names of the people they listened to, but I remember my mom, singing around the house to Annie Murray.
Yes.
Yeah. I needed to escape to my room and listen to the Smiths, you know what I mean? And the Cure. And that was that was me, basically hiding from my parents, at night watching Friday night videos. This is pre MTV.
Right.
And then when MTV came along, I started, my mind was blown by people like Billy Idol and Duran Duran. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow, I mean, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yes.
I had these aspirations to become, I don't know, an amalgamation of Duran Duran and David Bowie. And then I went to a Christian college at the, you know, basically at the prompting of my parents, and got kicked out my first semester at Liberty, which wasn't very hard to do.
Wait, you went to
And then,
Liberty? That's so funny. I didn't know that.
yeah, I went to Liberty University in 85, 80, or 86. But, you know, I came back the next year. You know, I kind of did some soul searching, you know, came back defeated. My dad wasn't very happy with me, worked around the farm and just was like, you know, he was like, do you really want to do this? Because if you want to do this, you need to shape up. You know what I mean? You need to either decide you want to go this road or you want to go somewhere else. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to finish this out.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
I made a heart change, and I decided to hang around people that weren't going to necessarily get me in trouble. And that's when I met Michael and Toby.
So you met those guys at Liberty?
I met him at Liberty. Yep.
I did not know that DC Talk was a product of Liberty University, man.
Yeah.
That should be advertised more.
Say it again?
That should be advertised more.
Yeah, you think
man,
Liberty?
they advertised the stink out of that back in the day.
You're probably right,
you know?
man. I was too young for that.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, no, I have nothing against Liberty University. There was a lot of great people there.
Sure, man.
Had
Absolutely.
some great memories there. You know, not necessarily agree with everything they taught, and still don't. But I had a lot of really great relationships, and you know, so when I met Michael and Toby, I had no concept of Christian music, and you know, I knew music that were in the hymnals, and I knew music that you sang in choir, but I didn't really know much about contemporary Christian music, and that was kind of like and then it became, you know, a whirlwind of inundation to the whole, you know, industry.
Oh man, yeah. We want to talk more about that in a little bit, but keep going.
Yeah, well, that started my journey into that world. You know, again, I grew up with a huge imagination, and then I was kind of sucked into this world of Christian music, and at first I was like, really kind of, I don't understand it.
Sure,
I really didn't understand how Toby's brand of hip hop and singing was gonna be anything. I used to, you know, just think, man, I mean, this is gonna like tank and like, you know, after 3 or 4 performances, and I'm gonna go back to looking for a rock and roll band.
Right,
you know?
right,
yeah.
And it just kept getting more and more popular. And so I learned a lesson, you know. What other people like isn't exactly what I like.
It is
right.
such a mystery, man. It is such a mystery. You never know.
So anyways, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, I'd say the second chapter would be me talking about all those years of being on the road with DC Talk, which are kind of they're kind of out there for everybody to see. I mean, you know, we believed wholeheartedly in what we did.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, like anybody, I have my ups and downs as a Christian.
Yeah.
Really was never like a church kind of a kid. I was more, I had to go to church. I was forced to kind of go to church.
Sure.
But I never really was really interested in it that much. And so, but to see behind the veil of every church in America on the road with DC Talk was definitely an eye opener.
Oh man.
And you know, a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of double talk, a lot of all that. But you know, people are people too, you know. So it's kind of like I never had anything against that culture, and I didn't really know that it was a growing industry at that time. I mean,
right.
we thought, hey, let's get out there and do the best we can. And I think, you know, it wasn't until probably around the middle of our career that we started noticing, wow, we're actually doing something, you know, and people were being impacted and
vastly, man. I was one of them. I was one of them, man. You guys touched me, man. The passion and the excitement, the enthusiasm, just the belief that poured through in the music and the performances. Absolutely, man. You should feel proud of that.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I look back on it and I think I was a young man and I didn't really know anything else, but I think that I'm always excited. And
absolutely.
You know, I think that I honestly think that it kind of shaped me in a really cool way to what I do right now, which is the kind of music that I make now today would be probably termed more general market, and I'm fine with that because
Sure.
I'm not really lyrically. I'm not writing the songs that are going to really be played on radio per se within the Christian industry.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm probably a little too alternative or weird to be played on general market radio. So I've always been, the weird guy or
Hey,
strange guy.
Most
whatever.
of my
And
favorite bands are just like that, man.
Yep.
So it's been a learning curve, and I'm going to be 50 next year, and I'm still learning. You know what I mean? So, I mean, for me, it's like, man, I mean, you can only just you take what you've been through, and you try to become a better person, and as an artist, you try to make better art.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely.
From my perspective. And if you're not, you're failing because
Right.
you might be hugely successful, but if you're not pushing yourself, if you're not, progressing, my opinion is you become, even though you might be making big bank, you're not successful because you're not changing.
Marching in the shadows to a prodigal drum, hopeful in the waiting for your grace to come. I know I don't deserve it, but I'll stay here all night long. Somewhere in the distance is a reason to care. A radical
I think what you just said is a great way to segue into to the next question I was going to ask you, which is obviously in the early career of DC Talk, when you guys were first starting out, you're obviously a very young man. All three of you coming out of college and kind of starting out. The style of music that you guys played is vastly different from kind of where you guys ended up in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about what was that like? Because in those days, I'll be honest, I was a young man as well, and just starting college, and I had no idea there was this whole Christian subculture, Christian punk music, Christian alternative music.
Yeah.
And it seemed like coming out of the 80s, that was still kind of forming in a way. And
Definitely.
And so maybe you could talk a little bit about what that was like, kind of entering into that new era of Christian subculture and going through basically your manhood,
Man, that's a great question.
your manhood on the road. You're selling out these giant arenas in front of thousands of fans. That's got to be a weird thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, from my perspective, it was a little bit of a bubble, because we were on the road animals. I mean, we were always on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was really hard to think of my life during my 20s and early 30s as anything less than being constantly on a tour bus or on a stage.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I have to say that there probably wasn't a whole lot of real maturity happening then. It was more or less, becoming better at my craft, but I wouldn't say that I was, extremely mature with relationships or my worldview or anything. I mean, I felt like I was growing, but I was growing quite slowly because, again, my life was being on a tour bus, getting on a stage, performing the best of my abilities, and then coming back and resting for a couple of days and going back at it again.
Wow,
So,
man, no space to grow.
Life experience at that point was, entertaining people.
Totally.
But when we kind of slowed down and we decided to, go our separate ways, I mean, I started really living life. And I think that's, when I went from being a solo artist and, I went through a divorce, and it was a tough time. And we're really great friends today.
That's
but
great.
it was a rough time for me, and so I left Nashville and I went to Los Angeles, kind of in search of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was those years of being in LA for about 4 years, I really came to grips with who I was. Because I hadn't really had time to kind of figure out who I was on the road with DC Talk. So,
man,
yeah,
I look back and I think, man, if I only had, maybe communicated more or reached out more, I probably would have been a bit more mature, and I would have been able to be better at relationships. I'm if you can look into my stuff or not, I don't know if you follow me that closely, but you can tell that I'm happily married.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been married over 10 years to Amanda, and we've had just an amazing life, 4 beautiful kids.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm still growing, and learning, in a really great season of my life.
That's so cool, man.
I'm not in a bubble anymore.
That's beautiful.
I've actually jumped out of the bubble conscientiously. I made the decision to jump out of the bubble.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're all about, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to say that it was anything other than me just being contrary. And people were like, "Oh man, that guy's difficult to work with," and kind of coming to terms with who I was as a person on my own, and then realizing, I wasn't that much difficult to work with. I just didn't know who I was.
Yeah, you were suffocating.
Yeah, it was a little bit of that. And if you could imagine, like almost kind of like child actors, where they grow up in this bubble where they're they're constantly on TV, and then when their careers are over and they go off the deep end because they've never really had any close friends or anything. It's a little bit of that comparison.
Sure, man, absolutely.
But not so much. But it's like I have a lot to thank DC Talk for, because we definitely we forged some really great memories, and the 3 of us as brothers, we'll always be brothers, even if we might not see eye to eye on everything. We might not be on the same page musically, whatever. We'll always be brothers.
Totally.
And that can never be changed. And so that's something I can be really thankful for.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm answering the question the way you want me to.
That was perfect.
But I'm at this place in my life now where I look back at all that and I think, wow. I mean, that was like a whirlwind, literally. And I can't imagine doing it like that now with these 4 kids. And that's why I've made a real decision to just kind of slow down and, try to do more music from my house.
Yeah.
And,
good for you.
The last 2 records have been made, in my office. And then I farmed the songs out to other producers. This record, Playing Games with the Shadow, is, definitely an alternative general market album. I've written all of this record on my synth and my piano, and no other co-writers, and it's just been so freeing. It's like I wake up every morning and go, okay, what am I going to do now?
Man, that's incredible.
Awesome.
After everything you've been through, I bet that's a liberating experience.
Definitely. Could get me into trouble.
Sure,
but,
sure,
right.
Sure. Hey, you know what, man?
Trouble,
that's sometimes the best deep breaths in life are when you're getting into trouble.
Yeah.
Get into a little bit of trouble. So one of the things I'm kind of curious about, and you've touched on it, but I wonder if you dive a little deeper with us. So we're a podcast that's all about sort of worldview evolution, that one of the things about going through life is that what you're handed at one point, once you kind of wake up and start to look at it, and that's a different place for everyone. Sounds like it was a different place for you just because of your experience as a young man. But our worldviews have to evolve, and they end up evolving. And you're kind of sharing autobiographically like right now. But how have your experiences through all these kinds of stages led you through your own sort of process of questioning, wrestling, looking at new versions of life and faith and spirituality, the kind of the concept that we call deconstruction? How is that shaped out with you?
I think it's been a very natural progression for me, because I walked away from, a very, very lucrative business and industry to try to figure out what I wanted to make on my own.
Wow.
And, and for many, many years, for better, for worse, created some independent art that, didn't sell as big as what I thought it would, but it brought me to places of understanding of who I was and what I wanted to say and what I believed in. And, I haven't stopped reading. I haven't stopped listening. I haven't stopped. I think I've lived more life in those years away from DC Talk than I did when I was with them. And so I've almost lived like two lifetimes. Yeah, I feel like I'm a much more of a well-rounded individual when it comes to knowing what I believe in, and you know, I've still got a lot of questions. I still, you know, I'm constantly intrigued by the mystery of God. I'm not really, you know, interested in religion. I've never really have been.
Sure.
I'm not really interested in the corporate versions of that. I'm not really interested in corporate church. And so but I've learned on my own what inspires me and what keeps me going. And so, yeah, I've kind of deconstructed myself over the years.
Oh, that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, by just being true and being honest to who I am. And I think that's easier said than done. I mean, it's really hard to say no to the quick cash, and it's really hard to say no to the easy alliances that might, you know, pop up because of who I've been and what I've gone through.
Absolutely.
And so,
Yeah.
I actually talk about that a lot in the song on this album called "The Resounding No" is the name of the song.
Okay.
Good name.
And it really talks about not giving in to the easy way of doing things, you know, and kind of going after what you truly believe in, for better or for worse, you know.
So yeah, one of the things that you're touching on that we wanted to kind of, you know, progress in this interview is you mentioned being in a bubble, and then how coming out of that bubble, you had to kind of, you know, take a look at yourself and go through almost this process of deconstruction. One of the things we think a lot of our listeners, ourselves included, and it sounds like you kind of are introduced to at some point, is this idea that we kind of call belief by proxy, meaning there's this corporate, institutionalized, structured thing out there that is putting pressure on you or me or the listener to believe this and not question it. Mm-hmm. And maybe talk a little bit about how this big thing that especially we have in America, but now with the internet, it's pretty much gone global, that we've got this machine. We've got this thing, you know, call it the matrix, call it a structure, call it the institutionalized, religious, whatever, but it's impending this pressure, this burden upon all of us that call ourselves religious or whatever to slip into this stream or that stream, or you're right over here or you're wrong over there. And, you know, you could talk about that pressure better than almost anybody I've ever met. And I'd love it if you would kind of get into some of that a little bit.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, man, this is a long discussion, and I think we'd have to hit on some,
Yeah.
I think we'd have to hit on some real, I don't know, I call them pulse points. Like, you'd have to really get detailed about where I'm at, and why I'm at.
Sure.
I'm at.
Sure.
So it's kind of, in a nutshell, for me, I've kind of read it all and I've lived it all, and it's kind of, you know, knowing what feels in your spirit, knowing what feels right to you and what doesn't. And I think there is a spiritual voice that we either suppress or that we feed. And I think that if we suppress it long enough, we're just going to follow the crowd. You know?
Wow, that's good,
I
man.
think if we feed it, then we're gonna be more in tune to that spiritual voice, and that spiritual voice, in my opinion, is the mystery of God. And that is
dude, that's great.
You know, that's educational, because, you know, that's truly the thing that I always search for. I mean, and so I guess in a better way of saying it, if I could give somebody a book to read when it comes to being in music and being true to themselves and still being a believer, you know, I would say there's a book by Francis Schaeffer called "How Should We Then Live?"
Oh, I love
wow,
it. I've
yeah.
got it on my shelf right here.
Yeah. Yeah, The Rise and Decline of Western Thought and Culture. It's kind of like
Epic.
He was talking about how, I mean, as you know, he was talking about how, you know, back in the day in the Renaissance, you know, these believing artists would create these monumental works of art that were inspirational to the whole world, you know. Now we're kind of, you know, and I want to say I'd say the majority of believers that are making art are kind of following trends and making homogenized, versions of what's already been put out there. I think that's my issue. I mean, and we can talk about that all day long, how bad it is. I think it's because people have not disconnected or have not deconstructed themselves, or they haven't taken the blue pill. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
To use
Absolutely.
the Matrix.
I love it.
Oh, it's so true.
We got to throw the Matrix in there, dude.
Yeah, you have
absolutely.
to. You can't have a spiritual discussion in 21st century America without referencing the Matrix.
Yeah.
So I think that it's easier said than done. I mean, man, I feel for some of these young artists. I can only talk about from my, sphere of music and trade. And that is, I feel bad for some of these artists that, you can tell they're very artistic and they're wanting to make some big statements, but they can't because they have to be a part of a label or a company to make money. And I think that is the deception.
Yes.
I think once they can, get out of that cloud and go, man, I can really do this without having to follow these rules and regulations.
Man,
things get more interesting. And I think you have to also live a little bit of life. There is a journey that everybody has to take, and I think God speaks to us along the way through the journey.
Yes.
I think very few are able to get it all figured out right away. And I will be the first one to say that I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And, I was brought up learning the Bible inside and out. So, man, I mean, it's just a big contextual conversation right there. It's like, how do you break free and be an individual and really own, your own truth, but not in a way of being humanistic. I'm saying knowing what you really believe in and why you believe it is a process,
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think living life, I think trying to be real, I think trying to be honest with yourself, not giving in to everything that everybody else is trying to feed you, and trying to, grow and progress and change. I mean, and become better. I think that any time that there's some stagnation going on, there's a problem. But unfortunately, in the music world, again, in my sphere of music and trade, it seems like there's a lot of people in stagnation that are being very successful. But that's because people are so used to being fed a certain thing.
Absolutely.
That whenever they get something else on their plate, they shun it. It's like my little kid who, we tried to give them a sushi roll. Of course, not raw fish right away. But we're just like, oh, here, try a California roll because. There's nothing, you'll like this. Of course, the first taste is no, thank you. I don't have anything to do with that.
Right.
If they try it, they might like it. And then they've learned all about sushi.
Absolutely.
So, whole new world opens up.
Yeah, man. That's good stuff.
In a musical world full of meat and potatoes, I mean, there are some other dishes to enjoy.
Yeah.
Totally, man. Great answer.
And I'm glad you brought that up because the next question I had for you, because I thought this was really interesting. I was reading another interview that you did not too long ago, and you mentioned in the interview that Christian artists really need to be more honest about the real issues in life. And I know you brought up your divorce in that interview. And do you still feel that way? And if so, do you think that if artists in general were just more honest about the real struggles and issues within life, do you even think that we would have Christian music, or would it just be artists being honest about the real things that they're dealing with in life?
That's a really great question. I think that that's somewhat. I think there's some truth to that for sure. I mean, I think that the more transparent you are, the more you can really connect to people.
Right.
I think
that's good.
I think the thing that's got me my mind always kind of, I boggle at this all the time is, the whole idea of the worship scene. It's like it takes away communication between people, and it's
that's good, man.
I mean, it's kind of like it becomes I hate to use this word, but a malaise to me. It becomes, such a, it sounds the same, it feels the same. And that does nothing for me when it comes to a worship context. It's like actually the opposite for me. If I can sit down and really get honest and transparent with another person, then I feel like, I can, go to a place with the Creator and ask some of those deep questions and be transparent with the Creator and get real. I feel like, I don't know, but I'm weird though, because I got brought up in music before the whole worship thing happened. So
yeah, for sure.
I think you're hitting on a chord, man. I know I feel that way. And, I'm a teaching pastor in a church, and that is a struggle, man, because everyone wants glitz and glam, and everybody wants, Hillsong and Matt Redman, and, nothing against that. I actually love that kind of stuff. But when it becomes a formula, when it becomes an on-off switch, you've sucked the mystery out. You're not inviting people into mystery. You're formulatizing it.
Absolutely. So that's the statement that I was trying to get to, and you answered it for me. So thank you.
Crap.
Whoa. All right.
I'm still trying to figure it out, man. So
Good, dude.
That's
Good.
beautiful.
yeah, I just know what I know, and I know what I like, and I seem to be in a minority, and I don't know why that is.
Doesn't matter.
Now talking to you guys, it seems like we're, right in the same, flux. So
Yeah, totally.
My question would be, so if we're enlightened, have we all taken the blue pill, and all those people that are still taking the red pill, can we help them? You know,
the tricky thing about that is, as soon as you think you're the one that took the blue pill, there's like a superiority thing that I think creeps into my heart. That I'm like, I'm the enlightened one, and everybody else is just. And there may be even truth to that, but for some reason, I shy away from it. I shy away from thinking I'm the enlightened one.
Well, there's definitely a narcissism to being intellectual.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think there is when you start to intellectualize things.
Yes.
You look down at the rest of the world with pity.
Right.
And that's kind of a bad place to be as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's just about helping other people get out of that, that rut. That's just kind of like, that's, why do you listen to that? Why do you like that? Why do you read that? Why do you like that? Why do you watch that? Why do you like that? Why do you go here? Why do you like just asking questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, well, you're completely wrong because of this. It's easier to just condemn than it is to try to be a friend. And
True. Yeah.
I'm
Completely agree.
Yeah, I find myself on that page many times, but I have the what I like to call a high class problem of being able to put those thoughts into poetry. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
People don't have to take me literally. When I'm writing a book, I'm scared because then
Sure.
your thoughts are black and white.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can hide behind a little bit of a cloud of poetic rambling, and you guys are shooting it straight. And so when I think there's more and more need for this in the world, and I feel like it's happening. I can tell from your standpoint, from Brendan's standpoint, a lot of people that are starting to ask questions, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
It
And the
is.
more that we can ask questions and not think that we have all the answers, I think the more conversations that can come about.
It seems like all the true luminaries in life, whether you want to, look at Socrates, who was on the scene before Christ, if you want to look at Jesus himself, if you want to look at the Buddha, if you want to look at any of these people, they were people that came out into the world with eyes open, asking questions, and it got them into a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I mean, Jesus is a great example. Jesus today, I can't imagine what Jesus would be like as a musician today. It would be.
That's an interesting question.
I don't
there.
know. He'd probably put Bob Dylan to shame. It would be like some kind of a poetic, soul search. I don't know, but it wouldn't be radio. I can tell you that.
No, you're right about that, man. People wouldn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
People tend to hate to hear the truth. That's
Oh, they hate.
sure.
Well, the truth is traumatic.
Yeah.
it's the blue pill. I mean, we can hit it again. It is. It's totally traumatic.
Yeah, before the truth sets you free, it makes you miserable.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I can talk about that I struggle with. You know what I mean? But I like to do it in an individual scenario with an individual person. I mean, when you get in a platform and you start talking about your deep, dark problems, I think that can be an issue too, though, because then you can cause people to question or doubt or stumble because of that. So there's kind of a line where I think you have to draw a little bit based on responsibility. I mean, you just can't roll out there and say, yeah, I got a problem with this. Can you believe what I did last night?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that, again, that's being gratuitous. And I think that, I don't know what an intellectual would say. An intellectual would probably say to keep that, close to within the inner circle of friends,
Absolutely. I think that's just wisdom, right?
There's a reason Jesus only chose 12. You know what I mean? There's a reason that it was a small group.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that we'd love to hear some thoughts on that kind of coming at it from a deconstructionist standpoint, we don't just look at just faith, but we like to look at all of life. And something that I think you might have a really interesting vantage point on is this really weird thing, celebrity culture, and specifically like religious celebrity culture. It's empirically linked in journals to eating disorders and depression and self-hate and bullying. And this is mainly due to like an overexposure to these quote unquote perfect ideals that we are given, that we're exposed to. And then we, as human beings who love comparison, we compare ourselves to these perfect ideals, these airbrushed, edited, photoshopped ideals. And I think that has, being somebody that grew up in celebrity culture and specifically Christian celebrity culture, I just see that as a really interesting thing that is kind of being pulled apart now. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
I really don't. Again, I don't listen to a lot of radio. I don't really move in those circles. So I don't really know what Christian celebrity culture looks like these days. You know what I mean? Like, I know what you're saying in reference to me as growing up in DC Talk. I mean,
sure.
Yeah, I think that part of it's really yucky. It's like, well, but we always took a stand, and with songs like "What If I Stumble" to say, don't look at us.
Wow.
But what's interesting is there are a lot of people out there that's like, don't look at us, but like look at us. But don't look at us, but like look at us. Yeah, don't look at me, but buy my book.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, there's lots of pastors out there. Hey, in all humility, though, I want to sell you my novel. Or sell you my book.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And it's rough because where do you draw the line? It's hard to say. I mean, I think it's between God and man. I think it's between woman and man, or between woman and God. I think it's between God and that individual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I don't follow Christian celebrity culture, so I wouldn't know what that is today. Can you give me an example, and I'll comment on it, or maybe not.
Well, I mean, no, we definitely don't want to come across.
You don't want to talk about individuals, and I appreciate that. That's very respectful.
That's totally not what we want to do at all.
I know where you're going, and I think that's kind of, it's what I've been trying to say here. It seems like a majority of people are wandering to a certain side because it's all they're fed. It's all they're used to.
Right.
It's all they're used to seeing, from church to books to music to movies. And I think, again, when they disconnect and start looking for themselves instead of what my brother, my mother, my youth group leader, my den captain, my next door neighbor is telling me what to do. I mean, I feel like that's the beginning of understanding and being self-realized.
Yeah, man, that's a good call.
It's that disconnection. But I got to be careful with that, because disconnecting can also carry a negative term. You know what I mean? It's like it's not rebellion. It's just trying to figure out what you truly believe and why you believe it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for some people, I mean, they need to read those mainstream books. I mean, that's what's going to get them energized and inspire them. For some people, such as myself, I go off the reservation a little bit, and I'm inspired by other things. So,
Totally.
I really don't know how to answer that question. I saw that you posted that, and it was interesting because I got a lot of Twitter, reactions.
Yeah, man.
People
I was
saying what they
surprised.
wanted.
I was like, oh my gosh.
It kind of got off base to me. I really didn't understand where people were going. I mean,
I'll give you my interpretation of what I thought people were trying to say, because it's a kind of a question that I've always wondered. Just we're always from the outside looking in, and you have a vantage point from being inside this sort of machine. That
it's a business. It was a business.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a business, and you have to understand. I mean, selling Jesus as a business is ridiculous and wrong, but it is a business. I mean, Jesus sells himself.
Yes.
Like there's no reason for us to try to sell Jesus.
That's true.
That's awesome.
But I mean, it gets a little convoluted, because we've been told through Scripture to spread the good news. I think that's different than trying to package and sell something. I think it's to sell the good news is more relational, in my opinion, and less about getting on a soapbox or trying to sell product with it. You know what I mean? I feel like whenever I see somebody profiting, and majorly from, creating something that is, trying to, I don't know, creating profit off of something that, is specifically, kind of that, again, that airbrushed vibe that you're talking about. It's sickening. It's sickening to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all of us have to survive, make money, move forward.
Totally.
And your podcast, in your mind, hopefully will become something and will garner enough, listeners to make a little dough for you. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean,
we'd like to pay for these microphones right now.
Yeah.
They're on a credit card.
Yeah, we're willing to start small. So.
You could donate right now if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
We'll take it. We're not ashamed.
So yeah, it's a I don't know. I don't know where the line is, but there should be a line, because some of the stuff I see out there being sold is ridiculous. And
one of the interesting things that I always wondered personally about this, you're kind of stepping aside from the question, but a little bit of an adjacent.
I'm doing a shuffle.
Yeah, no, I am too. Yeah. Like the icky shuffle, from back in the Bengals.
But I really don't know the answer to it. That's the issue.
Well, that's honest.
I wish I did.
I mean, I think that, just listening to you, there's definitely a critique of the machine and a critique of anything that's trying to sell something transcendent and airbrush it. And, like you said, it's like this sells itself. Like grace sells itself. Like you shouldn't have to. But at the same, one of the things I've always kind of wondered is where it's obviously, if you look at, really true just radio pop music, not even Christian pop music, it's unashamedly a product. Like Taylor Swift is incredible, and she wants to sell 1 billion records, and I hope she does. I want to meet her. I hope she gets on the podcast. That'd be amazing. But that is unashamedly business, whereas in Christianity, it always seemed to me like they were acting like they were doing it for Jesus.
A higher purpose.
Yes.
A higher reason.
And so, but then you, specifically you, Kevin, became an avenue or a channel for them to accomplish whatever goal they really had. And what I wonder is, were you looked after, or were you more like just swept up in it? Like, did somebody really say, like, man, I know that this is a big machine, but I want you to know that, like, I want to look after you. Like, I don't want you to get eaten up by this thing.
Sure. That's a good question. I mean, for the most part, I would say there was a lot of mishandling and a lot of, like, you're a commodity. and the music industry was different in those days too. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of individuality being. What I'm saying is, the music industry wasn't run by individuals. It was more run by labels and management,
right.
and people in business. And so, they had their agenda. So, as long as the kids up on the stage were doing their job, then we're happy, and let's just keep them happy,
Gotcha.
But there was in our camp, specifically the DC Talk camp, there was a great kind of a great few people that came into the fold, if you will, and we're there to try to get to know us personally and to challenge us, and to hold us accountable. One of those guys was named Michael Guido. He was what they called a road pastor, which I've, that term kind of rubs me wrong, but for what he was to us was somebody that challenged us every day to, are you believing what you're singing tonight?
Oh man, that's actually good to hear. Yeah, I mean, there was some really deep discussion about that. We actually got in with another person that a lot of people know named Brendan Manning, who kind of shed a lot of light on the subject of grace, of course. He hung out with us quite a bit, came on the road. We did some retreats with him. Holy cow, and, man. I didn't know that. Brendan Manning's an all-star. I mean, wow.
Yeah, I mean, he was very instrumental in making us understand, that, grace is a huge concept, but it was something that was tangible, and we could understand it if we really dug deep and understood the heart of God. And
oh man,
again, he was somebody that really kind of outlined some of the mysteries of God, which I thought was incredible.
I'm super jealous right now, man.
I think he was like one of our generation C.S. Lewis.
Totally, man. Ragamuffin Gospel split my head wide open.
Yeah, and it continues to for me. I mean, I haven't read that in a while, but I need to. I need to go back to it. So yeah, we did have the great benefit of having some really interesting people that were trying to talk to us personally and get and connect with us on a personal level. But yes, there was also a bigger part of that was more about the machine. It was about, how many records we're going to sell, how many dates are these guys going to do? When we get out there and we gotta wrap the bus in this slogan, or we've got to we really kind of, I think we were one of the few groups in the 90s that really kind of, even though we were those guys that were on the front cover of all the magazines, we were definitely questioning it too in a lot of our lyrics.
Yeah.
So Jesus Freak is kind of full of stuff of saying, don't look at us, look at the one that we believe in, the example that we want to follow. Don't look at us. But it's hard to say that, right? When you're on a stage in front of 50,000 people. I mean, it's kind of ludicrous. Don't look at us, but hey, I hope those lights look perfect and the fog machine happens at the right moment. You know what I mean? You'll capture my moment of complete reverence, just perfectly.
And I did in 1999. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But honestly, we were. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people out there that he's full of crap, but no, we really believed what we were talking about and singing about, and so it was a really wonderful time. I mean, like I said, I have more questions now I've ever had before. I have a lot more questions now than I did back then. But back then I was kind of swept up in a wave, and so I understand it. I understand the people that are in the wave of modern worship. I get it because I was swept up into the wave of CCM. But I think God can meet you there as well as on the individual path,
So let's talk a little bit about the big reveal this week. So as the listeners, I'm sure know, we've had a ton of people who have tweeted us and gotten on our Facebook page and stuff in anticipation of this big DC Talk announcement. Obviously, the internet was abuzz, and then of course the announcement came, and I think it's safe to say not probably quite the response you guys expected, but Yeah, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, and maybe the conversation that went on behind the scenes, in anticipation of this reunion.
Definitely. Yeah, man. Well, it's like, I mean, I kind of knew that it was going to be, either like, not necessarily a train wreck, but, there's going to be a lot of people that would, be not so happy because of, the inclusion of that. But I also think that there's a lot of people that aren't looking at it from the angle that I'm looking at it, or the way that Toby and Mike are looking at it. And that is, it takes a lot to bring us together. And, it takes a lot of scheduling, a lot of thought process to do something at this magnitude, because, number one, I mean, we don't ever want to do something from a performance standpoint that, is any less than what we did back in the day. So, I mean, we had to choose very carefully what we could do in the time given to us. And I'm just saying this idea of a cruise was tossed at me. I didn't plan it. And I don't think, Michael or Toby really planned it as well. So in fact, I know they didn't. So it was kind of like an idea that was tossed to us. And then we made the decision collectively that we thought that it would be cool because it's what we had on our tables at the moment,
Sure.
And, I've told many people this, but I'm only one, person in the equation, but, I think there's hope for more after this. It's just, you've got to start somewhere,
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people wanted, 20 cities or 30 cities. They wanted new product.
Sure.
If it were me, I want new product too. Of course, I want to create albums because that's what I do. But you also have to take into consideration that there's two other guys here with, extremely busy schedules and busy careers. And it's like all three of us combined have the most crazy, personal schedules because Toby and I both have lots of kids. We're always going, I'm going project to project. I mean, so is he. And of course, the newsboys do, I don't know how many dates a year. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that, we looked at it as like, wow, at least we can do something for now,
Yeah.
And I think that people looked at it as like, this is the only thing we're ever going to get ever. And,
right.
I it's a little bit of gloom and doom. Like for me, I mean, I just kind of looked at it as like, wow, I mean, okay, I get your feelings, but I mean, that's pretty like, that's looking at the glass half empty for sure, where I tend to look at the glass half full in life. But, it's a really great thought that people care that much about the band, that they would get that up in arms about it. And I've been laughing my tail off looking at all the stuff online. I mean, I just think it's hilarious. I love all the jokes and everything have been amazing, And I probably would have said the same thing if it would have been the Smiths reuniting, you know what I mean? Which is my favorite band from the 80s. So it's like, that's the way I look at it in my mind. It's like if my favorite band from the 80s, which was the Smiths, decided to get together, and they've been apart for longer than 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they came out and they said, well, we're going to do a cruise, I'd be like, really? But I guess I'm a little different in the fact that I wouldn't be slamming it because you never know what's around the corner. So
true.
I give people a lot of grace in that scenario, and I get it. But I'd say as 1/3 of the band, I'd just say, there's hope that there's more. And I think that if people really come to the table on this one and really love what we do on this one, I think it'll obviously send a message to everybody involved, including the guys in the band, to management, to everyone, that, hey, we need to do more than this,
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that follow you on social media, I think on your Facebook page, you even posted, you're like, look, I view this as a beginning, not an end. I think that was an important message. I think a lot of people, as you said, had an immediate reaction. And, I think, as you said, you've got to start somewhere. So have you gotten a chance to speak with the other two guys after the announcement or no?
Absolutely. I mean, we've spoken through texts, and you know, the truth is the day after the announcement happened, I was flying down to Orlando to be on Relevant, to play 2 new songs from my album and talk about the new album. So, of course, you know, when all that news came out, I mean, that changed some of the discussion at Relevant too, to being about this. But yeah, I mean, I was really busy when it happened, so I wasn't able to be online all the time. I mean, I was privy to some of it, but it's like I couldn't read every last comment. So, but yeah, I got the general idea that the people weren't very happy, and I think you know, Toby took the brunt of it. I think he took it. I mean, he's a good sport, obviously. So he's like me. He probably laughed a lot of it off, but I think some of it, you know, got to him a little bit. And he had to realize, you know, there's a lot of people that were expecting something more, and that's a positive thing for all of us, because we had no idea how many people would bandy behind this, and the fact that there are so many people that are so passionate about it, you know, that to me is a great sign, you know, and it's actually really flattering, and again, it speaks to the whole, you know, I hate to say the word legacy, but it speaks to our past of what we did and what we accomplished, and the heart of what the band was. And so none of us want to do cheesy, you know, things that don't matter. And I think cruises are kind of looked at like that, like, oh, it's a cruise, it's a total cheese fest, you know. We looked at it as like an opportunity, you know, to be able to perform shows together in a way that we could bring along our families, that we could bring along our own bands, you know, and not have to sacrifice, you know, 30 cities right now, you know, or, you know, and that's 2 to 3 months worth of being on the road. So, that's in a nutshell. I'm not sure where it goes from there.
Interesting. So, quick question for you. I know this is something that's come up on the internet. A lot of fans are asking, for those who can't make it to the cruise, is there any plan to do any kind of live recording of the shows that you perform on the cruise, or no?
That hasn't been talked about in detail yet. Like I said, I mean, I pretty much just heard about the idea a month ago or so. About a month and a half ago. I was never given a lot of details on it. So I think anything's possible. I think that would be something really cool to be able to do. A lot of that has to do with what kind of equipment is on board. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to recording equipment. I mean, if they've got a really great audio board and it's able to capture, you know, whatever we need, I think it'd be a really cool thing to do. Again, that's just my 2 cents. I mean, there's 2 other guys in the band that might think differently, but yeah, I think that would be cool. I mean, for me, I would love to create something brand new. Obviously, it's what I do every 6 months, anyways. So I'm restless. You know what I mean? Like, you know, recording a concert. And I would guess that DC Talk will be playing the majority of the hits. You know what I mean? I mean, that's cool, but I'd love to do something new. I know that I'll be playing a lot of the songs off my brand new album, Playing Games with the Shadow, and those will be some unique moments for me. I've got a really incredible band planned for that trip, and so for me, I can't wait to do that, because it'll be great to play these live in that kind of setting. I've only done one other cruise before, and it was pretty phenomenal. Like I didn't think I'd like it, and I got out there and I was just like, man, this is incredible performing like this to people, you know, and you know, just the immediate kind of intimate responses there are really cool too, you know. I feel for the people that can't get on, and I'm right there with them, and I hope that there's more than this. And I think the best way to make sure that there is just really get behind this and you know, show the band that you're passionate. And I encourage people to do that in any way they can. And I think a lot of them have shown that already by getting on social media and showing everybody how they feel, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really impressed as a fan who grew up listening to you guys and seeing you guys live in concert. I just thought it was really neat, the fact that there are so many passionate fans out there that just are dying, to see, a potential new album or a new tour or whatever. And a lot of them just being a lot younger fans, fans that, may not have even been born yet, at that point. I thought that was just a really neat thing to see. So
yeah, I noticed a lot of really young people like weighing in on it, and I had to laugh because it's like they weren't even there the first time. So the fact that they're so passionate about it this time is interesting to me.
That's got to be pretty cool for you guys, though.
Absolutely, man. I mean, like I said, if nobody would have said anything and it would have gone over, like just kind of like passed by and everybody's like, whatever.
Yeah.
That would have really surprised me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the fact that people got riled up and a lot of people got pissed off, it showed me that people care,
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. Good luck with the tour, or I guess the cruise, and we'll stay
the invisible tour.
Yeah. At least you don't have to go to too many venues, when you're aboard a cruise ship. So it's
there's like probably 3 or 4 different places you could perform there. So
yeah, exactly.
It narrows it down a little bit. But no, I mean we're I think everybody's super excited. I'm still doing a lot of shows up until then. I actually go out to I'm going to be in Minnesota on June 18th, playing at a festival. Michael and the Newsboys actually play after me.
Oh, cool!
And Peter Furler's playing around the same time I play, and so I'm getting out there quite a bit. I'm still doing some clubs. I'm actually doing some house shows that are connected to the Pledge campaign. So I'm going to be out there doing a lot of gigs before that, so people can get the chance to come check me out. I will play some of the hits for them if they want.
Awesome, man. Well, we can't wait.
Pre-cruise.
We will definitely put the word out and try to get people out to some of those shows and talk about your new album and kind of what can fans expect and
Yes. Okay. So I'm self-managed and I'm myself. I'm my own label.
Nice.
So let me make my pitch to you.
Okay.
Here's my pitch.
Do it.
Yeah.
It's called Playing Games with the Shadow.
Okay.
Again, it's songs that I've written on my piano and my synth by myself, and I've had some really great people helping me finish the tunes, like John Mark Painter, who just did the Steve Taylor Perfect Foil record.
Okay.
Wow.
He also worked with Ben Folds, and
Yeah.
he's worked with Kings of Leon and lots of other bands. Really incredible artist.
Man, that's cool.
He's producing for me. I've got Adrian Ballou playing guitar for me. I don't know if you know who he was.
Oh, yeah,
he
absolutely.
did my record Stereotype B.
Yep.
And he was a longtime David Bowie guitar player.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing guitar player, amazing friend. Doing some songs with a guy named Todd Mark Evans, who's a great friend of mine who lives here in town, and did some music with Lynn Nichols and Dwayne Laring. They produced a couple of tracks. So even though I've written all these by myself, I'm kind of getting some of my friends to produce them and play on them.
Dude, that's so cool.
That's fun.
If you follow me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Kevin Max, whatever that is, and then Twitter, /Kevin Max. And then we actually have a brand new site that we're starting to build called kevinmax.com, strangely enough. And,
That's great.
So creative. But honestly, I mean, it's just been such an incredible joy to create stuff without any kind of limitations.
Oh, I bet, man.
Without anybody looking over the shoulder and going, I wouldn't do that. Because the last record I did was I like to call it a alternative psychedelic jazz record.
Yep.
And that was Starry Eye Surprise, and it's all songs about the night. So we put that out about 6 months ago, 5 months ago.
Yep.
And before that, of course, I did Broken Temples, which was, in my opinion, probably the last real, CCM-esque album. that I would be doing for some time, because I came off the road with Audio Adrenaline, and I felt the need to just kind of, keep some of those listeners with me and not like, hit them over the head with my strange influences, but kind of keep them listening for a little bit longer.
So cool,
So
man.
Broken Temples was kind of a bridge record. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, I'm creating, and I'm having the time of my life doing it.
That's beautiful,
Few
man.
shows here and there. People, if they keep in touch through kevinmax.com or the Facebooks and stuff, they'll see shows coming through. Man, just trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good husband.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But also trying to be a good artist. So this album, I feel very strongly about it, because I feel like it's very much written and performed from a very pure standpoint, from a very purist standpoint as an artist. I'm not hiding behind anything. So there's going to be some songs in here that will get people talking, which I think is good.
We're all
And
about that, man.
Yeah.
They're asking some questions, and just like you guys, I don't name anybody individually, because I think that's wrong. But I think we have to talk about the stuff that matters.
Totally.
And get transparent.
Yeah, man.
And
I
be
love
honest
that.
with each other. The system is flawed, So
Yeah, you said something a minute ago that I'm going to totally tweet out and quote you, because it was beautiful, man. You said the more transparent you are, the more you connect with people. And
Yeah.
I think that if that's the tenor of your music in your life, man, you are doing the right thing. And I encourage you to do that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, who are the new artists that are really turning you on right now?
Oh man. Again, I could get in trouble, but I'll just be honest. I'll just be honest.
You can. You're
I
allowed.
listen to a lot of hipster music. When it comes to what's out there right now, there's not a whole lot that I've grabbed onto. Recently, it's been a guy named Sun Kill Moon, who's been singer songwriter, just incredible, just vocal, guitar, pretty crazy. I'm really into. I was shaped in the '80s, so I'm really into that kind of like the new wave vibe of synths and guitars
Oh,
together.
yeah, man.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm still a fan of Public Image Limited. I listen to them a lot. I listen to a lot of Japan. I listen to a lot of the Smiths,
Nice.
Roxy Music, Morrissey.
Yeah.
But the new stuff, I tend to, I go out once in a while and I try to find what's interesting to me. There's a band called Beach House, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, man.
Real good.
And the name of the album's called Depression Cherry. I really love that album.
Yeah.
I listened to that album, and this is going to sound really ridiculous, but I listened to that album when I'm riding around in my golf cart.
I just got a mental image.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I'm getting ready to sell the golf cart, though. Maybe I should talk about that on air now. Try to sell
You
it.
can
But,
auction it off on our podcast if you want
Yeah,
to.
there you go.
yeah. So in my neighborhood, it's next to a golf course. So, it's just kind of funny. They were able to ride around in golf carts in this neighborhood, which is funny. So I got a really beat up old Disney golf cart, and it's got a bunch of crazy stickers on it. And when people see it go by, they either have pity or, they want to throw things at me, but it's great. I had a sound system put in there and I listened to my crazy music.
Hilarious.
So fun,
That's
man.
great.
I'm inspired by guys, like this new guy, Sun Kill Moon. I mean, he's got some very, I would say some disturbing, lyrical content, but I mean, but he's saying it like it's the real deal, and he's not cutting any corners. It's kind of like he's Jack Kerouac, you know what I mean, or he's Charles Bukowski. He's basically saying, "This is my life, for better, for worse. It's ugly, but here it is." You know what I mean? And I think if more people kind of followed that, they don't have to be as gratuitous, but if they could follow it and do it in different ways, I think that's an. I say follow, I just mean like doing it that way where it's more exposed and raw and honest. I think we can get further down the road.
Completely
as a
agree, man.
Collective spirit.
There's an ancient book of poetry that you're probably familiar with called the Psalms that was a lot like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to write a song about perspective of that a couple years back. I never released it. But yeah, I mean, it's like David was one of the first people that I really related to in the Bible, because he's asking questions, you know.
Yeah, he is.
He's admitting to the fact that he's a screw up, you know.
Totally,
and so,
man. Yeah. Killer, dude.
yeah, we can all relate to that for sure. It's harder to relate to the person that's got it all together.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
That's the truth.
Nobody
you know,
likes
that's a
that
big
guy.
fat lie.
Nobody
Yeah.
likes that guy because it's like you're not being honest.
That guy's putting on a show.
We just interviewed Rob Bell, and he was like, "Who likes to sit at the dinner party with the guy that was like, man, every shot I made went in, and then I kicked some ass, and then I kicked some more ass, and like,
Yeah.
who wants to talk to that guy?"
No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Rob Bell's a great example, but of somebody that's on that path. But you know, everybody loves a good redemption story. You know what I
Totally,
mean?
man.
It's like
So true.
so the movies. I mean, Hollywood's filled with, you know, success stories about the redemption or the screw up story, and
Yeah.
it's the same way in the Bible, man. I mean, obviously, God loved to deal with the screw ups.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally, man.
and the
Totally
degenerates.
Yes,
Oh man.
So I count myself in that group, which is great.
us too, man.
You're in good company.
Us too.
You're in great company.
We'll hang out. We'll have a beer in that group.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt, man. Let's take that on the road. You know.
Well, this might be reaching, Kevin, but I'd love to extend an offer to you. You know, one of the things I always picked up with you, just following you through the years, is you have a lot to say, man, and you're good at saying it. And you know, you self-deprecated a little on the interview, which is great because it's humble. But like, you have a lot to say, man. And if you ever want to get something out there, even if it's like a sound bite or a little commentary on something or a struggle, you've got a platform with us, man. We would love to air
Yeah.
that stuff out with you.
Yeah, anytime.
So when you guys get up to about 100,000 viewers, I'll do that.
That'll be like maybe next week.
yeah, we're
Not
kinda,
even close.
We're kind of heading that way, but it might be a minute.
See, but that's a whole discussion, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's so many people that like, oh, I'm not going to go hang out with them because they're not selling 1 million units. I mean, that's basically what the industry is like right now. I'm going to listen to this guy's show because he sells 1 million records, but
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going to go to that guy's show because, man, you know, just bring up his sound scans. You'll know how good he is.
Right.
That's right.
That's how you miss out on a really good band, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I love what you guys are doing. I will
Thank you.
return the compliment. I mean, I think you're both awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you.
man.
And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to bump into each other at a show or something in the future. So
Hopefully we can shake hands and break bread and flesh and blood sometime, man.
Yeah.
yeah, man, my porch is open to you anytime you want to come. I'd love to hang out. So thank you again
Definitely,
for the
man.
opportunity.
Thanks so
Definitely.
much,
Thank
Kevin.
you.
All right, take care.
All right, buddy.
thanks. You too,
Take
buddy.
care. Bye-bye.
Penetrate the film, the nebulous of your skin, burrow deep within, never to escape again. The storybook of our sin, guided by a light that dims. Hold on, never look back. We walk into our own death traps. Lay back and whisper my name.
Wow. So,
Still can't believe that just happened.
yeah, I just appreciate, I really appreciate Kevin's honesty just in general, obviously with the original interview where we focused obviously mainly on his career. But I really appreciated him taking the time. He was literally in the middle of moving his entire house.
Yeah.
And he stepped out into his backyard because he told us like, hey, hold off on this episode. Give me a week. The news is going to come out. People are either going to love it or hate it, but they're going to be talking about it.
Absolutely.
And I'll come back on your show. We'll go back in the studio
So
and
sweet.
record a few minutes of just the inside scoop on what's going on with DC Talk here in 2016.
Yeah, man.
And he was super honest about it, man.
So honest. And the thing I loved when we closed this conversation out is just, that moment when, everything in life is magic until you realize that it's just normal. Like, every movie or everything that gets produced or, even politics, whatever, as soon as you get that peek behind the curtain and it demystifies things, like an epic band like DC Talk, this epic, big, huge thing that a lot of us, raised in Christianity in our childhood, it's like, it doesn't get any bigger than that. And then you spend an hour having a conversation with this guy and you feel like you're just at a bar, like with a friend. and you just realize just how every one of us is just in flesh and blood and in skin and bones and in doubts and anxieties and in all kinds of weirdness.
Yeah.
And he just did a great job of just being so normal. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but like, we're all just people, man. And we put the celebrity culture on the celebrities.
Absolutely.
We really do. This weird worshipful thing that contributes to all kinds of identity issues throughout our culture. And it's just so cool to get to talk to some of these people and realize that it's just normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like we said in the introduction, if you like any of the music, check it out. It'll be in the show notes. And we just appreciate you guys listening. As always, if you want to donate, you can go to our website under the donate tab. Check us out on all the social media. We're on all of the social medias. And of course, we'll have our Patreon campaign up shortly, and you guys can help support us and a couple trips that we have planned in the very near future for some even cooler guests that we can't quite reveal yet. So.
Yeah. Thank you guys all so much. We love doing this. We love that you've chosen to be a part of this with us. And we love that we know that we have got just a vault full of unbelievable conversations. We take this journey very, very seriously. We know that it's ups and downs for everybody out there listening to this, but we want you to know that we're having a blast doing it too.
Yeah.
And we thank you so much for allowing us to create this space and joining us.
I think
here.
we created a new hashtag too, right? So Summer of the Power Women.
Summer of the Power Women.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys aren't even ready for. I thought you meant DC Talk Blocked.
Oh, that too. we're on a roll right
We
now.
got some hashtags.
Yeah.
That like maybe 4 or 5 people have actually reused. It's fantastic.
I know. I thought that
we're
would kick
trending.
off a little better than it did.
That's awesome. We love you guys so much. And for now, we are the Deconstructionists. I'm Adam Narlock.
And I'm John Williamson.
Steps out of the night, lit by neon billboards high. With laborious lips the siren cries and pulls the shipwrecks to a side. A dusky boy of shading low trapped him in her winter sights. Like magnets tight she held him firm, there for years without a fight. It's the call of the wild in you, the surrender in my sighs. It's a deadly situation, the girl with the tiger eyes. Yeah, it's the call of the wild in me, through all these desperate heights. It's a guilty combination, the girl with the tiger eyes. As we glide on down through town, pulsing chaos shifts the box. We rocket past those vacant spots, glitter in the sky so raw. When in her web you cross the miles, her gaze it burns through blackest holes. By her side with breathless style, it's the call of the wild in you, and all the desperate lies. I'm tranquilized all night by the girl with the tiger eyes. Yeah, it's the call of the wild in me, the surrender in my sighs. It's a deadly situation, the girl with the tiger eyes. Blind. call of the wild in you, the surrender in my sighs. I'm tranquilized all night by the girl with the tiger eyes. And it's the call of the wild in me, through all these desperate heights. It's a complex situation, the girl with the tiger eyes. The girl with the tiger eyes.